All right, we'll call the Ascension Parish Personnel Committee meeting to order at this time. Let's all rise. Ms. Fontenot, would you lead us in prayer, please?
Yes, I will. Father, we do thank you for this beautiful weather we're having. We thank you for Ascension Parish. We thank you for all those in Ascension Parish who serve this community. We ask you many blessings this day. We ask for wisdom. We ask for knowledge. We ask for understanding. And most of all, we ask for provision. We also thank you, Father God, that we have men and women who are serving us to protect us and to keep us safe, those that are in our country and those who are abroad. Father, we ask that you protect them and bring them home safely. In Jesus' name we thank you and pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Patterson, note that Mr. Martin McConnell, member of this committee, is absent, and also Coach Alvin Thomas, member of this committee, is also absent tonight, but we do have a quorum. Jared Barrick is here, Ms. Fontenot, and myself. And also we also have DPW head Bill Rue and HR Director Mr. Roy Katz to join us up here. Number 3 on the agenda would be old business. Any old business anybody has? Seeing no old business, any new business besides what we have on the agenda? Any new business? All right. Also, public is invited for any comments during each one of these agenda items. If the public would like to comment, please just see Ms. Patterson, and we will certainly allow you to speak on any agenda item. This time we'll take up agenda item number 6, discussion of title and pay scale changes and additional positions. Personnel Director, Mr. Roy Katz. Roy.
Thank you. I'd sent to you by email the positions and titles that we were going to talk about. We'd like to have one. The first one refers to Charles Guidry. He was called Conflict Resolution Officer. We'd like to change him to Community Services Officer. He's also assumed some responsibilities in the administrative, in the White House, as far as most of the clerical help and secretarial help report to him in the administration building. Now, all of these, if I understand correctly, is going to have to be made changes under an ordinance to go into the policy manual. Okay? Okay. The second thing is a title change only. This deals with Kenny Matassa from manager of the health department to director of the health department, and the pay scale stays the same. Since we started talking about this, we asked for a couple of other positions that we'd like to see added. One is a GIS map planner, which would be contract, and at this time there's no pay classification had been assigned to this. The other one came from Mr. Savoy's group, asking for a senior survey technician. They felt this, Bill, you may have a comment on this, but they feel like this position is necessary so we can have some growth in that in the surveying group. We asked for a senior paralegal or legal assistant. Our present paralegal is at the maximum of her salary, and unless we can expand it by giving the title of a senior, we cannot move her salary. And it's not the intent to go out and hire somebody else. We want to keep the same person in this position. With the other move was that the administration decided to make was to give Mr. Rue an assistant planning and development director. This would be a salary grade 124. It would go in conjunction with the assistant DPW director, which we already have a position for. So that's the other thing we're asking. And then the other thing came out of the budget recommendations that we establish a floodplain administrator. We already have a person for this position, and it's a grade 113, and that would move over to the engineering group instead of in planning and development. Mr. Berger, you have a perplexed look on you. You have a question? I'm sorry.
He's just taking it all in, Roy.
No, but that would be our recommendations from my point of view, what I'd like to see in the changes in our part of the policy manual.
All right. And you did mention some of these are going to require ordinance changes.
I think all of this goes.
All of it would?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions of the committee members? Ms. Fontenot?
The community services officer, is there a job description to go with that? I mean, you're changing the title and changing it. Are you changing the description of the services? Because isn't it customary that our job descriptions fit our policy manual pay
Yes,
scale?
and I would be, at this point, I can't answer your question. This was really, we were just looking at a title change for him at this point where we continue to do the same thing. In other words, whatever the conflict resolution officer would be changed to community services officer, which would be the same job description. We're just changing the title on that.
You're changing the title and you're changing the pay
Well,
scale.
the grade, but we're not changing his salary. He's still staying where he is. It just alters.
Exactly, but I mean, it would seem to me that if you're changing the services also, that you should provide that particular description to match the title.
Okay.
Just a point I think Ms. Fontenot is alluding to also. When the conflict resolution officer position was formed, I mean, if I remember right, I thought it was supposed to be essentially working out of DPW, and I think he's since moved to the administrative office. I think you said that in your commentary.
Yes,
so the conflict resolution officer, the position he was hired for, essentially he's actually been doing something else because he's been at the White House for a while, and I'm assuming that's why the administration wants to change it from conflict resolution officer to community services, because he's doing more of a community service type work. And then you said we're having secretaries answer to him?
Well, what they did, because there's so many groups up there, if somebody's going to call in sick, they would call Mr. Guidry to tell him that they're going to be in sick or they're going to be in late, because some of the people are moving, are not in at a certain time or whatever. The duties that he was doing when he was with DPW just came over with him to the White House. In other words, as far as conflict, they're still calling him for the same issues. But if we need to do something with a job description, I don't have a problem with that.
Well, I think why Ms. Fontenot is bringing it, and she may shake her head yes or no here, but I think in the survey that URS did on DPW, that was one of the things that was noted, that he was actually supposed to be at DPW handling those types of conflict resolutions, dealing with mostly roads, ditches, culverts, people, I guess, calling in with complaints and kind of hedging between, and finding out the information instead of sending one of our guys out there that does that, kind of being a buffer to see if there was actually a problem. Now, I don't remember the rest of the report. Maybe you do, Ms. Fontenot.
Well, that wasn't why I was
Okay.
going there, because I was just saying that if we're going to have a new one,
Right.
I know that we need a job description, and that was actually where I was going with that.
Okay.
But now that you bring the other thing up, I do remember reading the report, and it did seem to me that the URS people felt that that position needed to be at DPW, and that it needed to be one of the most important functions at DPW because of keeping up with people's work orders and keeping on track and keeping things lined up with the personal touch,
Right.
to keep the citizens that have needs informed. And that's what I got out of that report. And since Mr. Valentine brings it up, that's why I bring this up now. But my reason was that I just think that it needs to be.
And the only reason, since Mr. Rue is here, any comments on that, Bill? Is that essentially a function that you would like to see continue, or is it hindered by extra duties?
Well, what we found out, and it's a good plan, it's a good idea, but after we implemented a conflict resolution officer, basically to do what you're talking about, it came to the point where actually someone in DPW had to actually go out there and resolve the issue because it's all technical stuff.
Sure.
It's all DPW action stuff.
Okay.
So it kind of came out at the end to someone receiving a phone call, and basically the most important thing, which we do still need, but at a minor position, is for somebody to follow up on complaints and make sure that the constituent was satisfied.
Right.
Or somebody responded back to them, everything's okay. It's not actually resolving the issue. It's just following up and make sure that something was done. And that is a lesser position, so, it doesn't take somebody to, at that level to do that.
But I think
kind of
I think it is important, though, because I know Mr. Guidry on a couple of issues that I had, went back and followed up, and some people were satisfied, some were not, and we were able to work out those positions. But I don't want to take away from somebody actually going out and doing the work.
That's
you
it.
know.
But again, we're handling that, and Mr. Guidry is still doing that. But it's not actually resolving the issue, it's following up and make sure something was done.
Okay.
And everything's settled.
Roy, I'm going to suggest that you make sure that you go ahead and let's get these duties and the job description written out, especially over, I think it should be, precise on who answers to him. I mean, if the secretarial pool at the administration office or a certain group are going to answer to Mr. Guidry, I think it needs to be spelled out.
Okay.
Okay.
Will do.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Katz, can you give me an explanation of what the new classification on the conflict resolution officer is again? I think I missed that. Why are we changing the title?
Because it was more, he was doing a lot more stuff, a lot more of functions than just conflict resolution. He was actually going out into the community if there were other things that needed to be done. Also under the conflict resolution, we'd get calls on that, and sometimes people would call him on animal problems that we were having in the parish, and just a number of other litter problems would go to Charles. But also he was going to go out and kind of do PR work for the parish if we needed it. That's all it is. I mean, I'm going to come up with a job description on it so you'll have a better understanding.
Please do, because you just gave me some concern with a PR person, because in talking with the parish president here a couple of weeks ago, he's actually looking at that position. So we don't need to, like the parish president likes to say, duplication of services.
You're right.
So please, let's clarify this. And
Okay.
And,
Will do.
You say there isn't any raise intended. Isn't that what you told me?
Yeah, it was done.
But in the classification, the minimum between the two differences is 4,700 and the maximum is 75. Mm-hmm. So if we are going to get a raise, let's show that clearly and get that out the way.
All right, the next one was manager title change only. Anybody got any questions on that particular one?
Okay, we're talking about, now we're on number 7? Or?
No, we
Okay.
on the title change of manager of health department or director of health
Oh, okay.
department, okay? Hang on one second, Bill. We're going to get to you.
I get nervous.
Part of this is
Okay.
his anyway. He prompted me to do all of this.
I understand.
What's the difference between the titles and the name change here?
It's just strictly in who they're dealing with. In fact, when we're dealing with the health department and we're dealing with other individuals, most of their titles are directors instead of managers. That's all it boils down to.
Okay, that's fine.
Well, the only comment I have to make, I don't have any problem with this at all, but it seems like when we first started out in 2004, we got rid of the director of health and social services, and now we're back to making a director again. So, but I don't have a problem. I think Mr. Matassa does a fine job, and I'm proud to have him.
Yeah, he works for me, and I'm very proud of him.
All right, as you see the positions that he listed, the GIS planner contract, the senior survey technician, senior paralegal, and legal assistant, that I think the Home Rule Charter calls for that, and that position was filled recently, right, Roy? That's just been filled like over the last
With
year?
Sandra? Yes,
Yeah.
Sandra Pereira does
On the
that.
paralegal. The assistant planning development director.
That's new because of, and this came about with Tom Fance's departure. Planning and Development is going to go to Mr. Rue, and as part of the organizational structure change, and he needs some help.
Right.
And in fact, item number 7 kind of builds into this whole thing with what we're talking about, the planning director. As you know, the reorganization, in the reorganization, Lance Brock has been made, in addition to his planning or chief zoning official, he's acting as an assistant director within an organization over that whole group, which is like 4 or 5 people, going to be expanded to other people.
Right.
And also in item number 7, we got it down here for the chief building official, actually to be the same thing. Mr. Bourgeois to be still chief building official, but he'll be over the whole permit section too, of that section. And so both of them are pretty much acting as an assistant director over those sections, reporting to me. And that's why we would like their pay scale changed to that of within the range of assistant director, so we have more flexibility in adjusting our salaries to be higher than people working under them. And that was the main intention of some
Right.
of that, to reflect their additional duties.
Okay. Okay. Before we comment on it, let's finish this
Okay.
bill.
Right.
And the floodplain administrator, which is
Johnson.
Ms. Johnson, Miles Johnson.
Miles.
yeah.
And I can comment on that because it's under my.
Well, yeah, and I mean, that's something I think that has been already addressed as far as the fact that we need someone in that position.
Yeah, and the fact that the code actually calls for the floodplain manager to be an engineer or the parish engineer.
Okay.
And because of the ordinance, and that being the wording of the ordinance, it's mandated that our engineer is the floodplain
Okay.
manager, but we need an administrator to actually do the day-to-day in and out activities of the floodplain program.
Right.
But we didn't have anything in our personnel manual reflecting that position.
Okay. And the survey technician, and you said Mr. Savoy's group, that's Mr. Lynn Savoy.
Lynn Savoy.
And who's over the engineering and they do the grade
The
shots.
survey stuff, and we
Right.
recommend that because of the fact we have a couple people working in the office now
Right.
that's actually doing most of the technical drawings, most of the technical activities, and actually running the department when Mr. Savoy's not there.
Okay.
And this is a position to reflect that.
All right, Ms. Fontenot, you want to comment on 7? I mean, on, not 7.
Well, no,
the
just
assistant
on
planning
some of
director?
these my question would be, are all of these positions that you list here already in, or are we creating any new ones in this?
You would be creating the senior survey technician, which we do not have. The senior paralegal is a new position also, but again, we're not replacing, that would just be the same person that we have in there. Assistant planning and development, we have the people, that's just changing the title. And if you remember, we had in the budget amendment, when you did the budget, you had a floodplain manager in there, and that was pulled out so we could come back with this floodplain administrator. This is a new position too.
Then I would think we need job descriptions
Oh, on all
on
these.
these.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I wanted to say too about, like for instance, the senior paralegal, are we going to eliminate the other paralegal position because, or are we moving this person into another position, thus giving another opening for another employee? Or are we just looking to give by giving a new title a pay raise? Because if that would be the case, we could just maybe change the pay range.
And that may be the option. The option is not at this time to even, as far as I know in my conversations, is not to bring anybody on. We're just really limited to the salary ranges, and a lot of these people are very valuable to us, and we just hate to see them go.
And I understand that, but I know that this has to be done by ordinance, and we want to make sure that we do it right the first
Right.
time.
And that's why we're going to need descriptions. Bill, and
Okay.
anything you have down here too, everything's going to have job descriptions. Going to be specific. Mr. Barrett.
Yeah. Mr. I know in the past, the floodplain administrator or manager or whatever was handled by one person, but actually two job descriptions. They actually did two different jobs. This has expanded enough to actually hire one person. They actually did municipal addressing and the floodplain stuff. It
Right.
has expanded it.
It has.
We really do need
It
two
has.
people here.
And especially with the new floodplain maps coming out. The floodplain management program has expanded fivefold over what we've been doing, because of all the problems with flooding and with the controversy over the flood maps and everything like this. So they're hiring in the process right now, interviewing for an addresser, and that's just going to be a clerk position, basically, to do addressing and assist the planning department in their activities. This is a position which can be totally dedicated to floodplain management and handling all the FEMA zone, floodplain administration of zone areas and reporting to the planning commission on who's in the flood zone when they come in requesting that information. No, but it has expanded at least fivefold.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Fontenot, you had something else?
Well, yes, on the Assistant Planning and Development Director, I realize that we now no longer have a director per se over that, and that our current zoning official, Mr. Lance Brock, is going to step into this position, and he's going to have considerable more duties and more responsibility. And I see that we're changing the pay scale here, but I guess I'm really interested to see that he gets a fair up salary for taking on additional work, because I've been around enough to know that he works long, tedious hours above and beyond sometimes the call of duty, and I want to make sure that if we're giving him extra duties, that we make sure that he's compensated for it. And
Just one little correction, Councilwoman. The fact of the matter is, it's not assistant director in planning and zoning, it's assistant director in DPW. I mean, officially now, everything's under DPW in that area, and so he's assistant to me, assistant DPW director. And again, we're going to recommend the same thing with the chief building official. And his activities, it has expanded to the point of head over that department, but really it's 4 or 5 people. But that does, by making this change, does reflect his higher pay for more responsibility. And it's definitely in there, and that's part of the reason for doing it.
Okay.
I guess the reason why I was asking Mr. Rue is I have no idea. I'm looking at the minimum and maximum pay scale here, but I have no idea what Mr. Brock is currently getting.
Yeah, and we
know.
can confide that to you.
And I mean, if he
After
was
the
already
meeting.
getting 45,000, for instance, and we're going to give him the minimum at 47.
No.
That's the only reason why I bring it
That-
up.
that's not going to happen.
That's not.
I just want to make sure he's taken
And
care of.
again, the purpose of changing some of this is to make sure we have the flexibility to pay a manager or a supervisor or whomever, a director, that has that responsibility, a minimum amount of money over and above anybody under them. And this gives us, so that we can guarantee that they're paid above, a certain amount
Okay.
above that.
All right, Bill, any other discussion on those? And I'm going to suggest that we make sure that we get all our information before we forward this to the council. So what we can do is easily call another meeting next week.
Well, I can get you
have
job descriptions at any time.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll
we
do
have
them and get
our,
them to you.
We have our official meeting this week, and I think that's the last one for the month until beginning of next month, so we won't be able to bring it to the council next month anyway, so we'll have some time to do that. We'll be
What I would like to do, excuse me,
Yes, sir.
is get them to you, let you make your comments and get them back to me.
That's the best thing to do.
That's what I think
Best
we
thing
ought to
to do.
do. before we have a
Absolutely.
meeting.
Okay, Bill, you touched on item number 7, the chief building official, same range as assistant director. That primarily fills the void of your assistant that you actually have vacant now, huh?
No. And actually, that should have been and could have been included in item number 6. That's identical to the planning assistant director, Lance Brock's
Okay.
position. In other words, they'll be equal in their responsibilities and pay scale.
Okay, question. We have an assistant director, DPW position, but it's not filled right now, right?
We have a classification for it.
Right. In other words, that used to be Mr. Eddie Howard. He
Right.
moved on to OEP.
But you can have, again, by having this classification in there, we can have 6 assistant assistant
Okay,
directors.
I was just curious.
It's not tied to one, but we have not filled that position.
Okay, all right.
As assistant director over operations.
I was just separating. Okay.
Okay.
I got you.
But
Okay.
they all fall within the same.
Right. Any comments on the building official? Okay. Let's move to agenda item number 8, the amending personnel manual to allow straight time pay for approved overtime for exempt personnel in the position of manager or less. Time and a half will still be paid for declared emergencies when reimbursed by FEMA.
Let me give you a brief explanation on that. Unless we had a state of emergency declared by the parish president, exempt employees would not, and they would have to work 50 hours, I think it is, before they would get any compensation at all. Bill and I have talked about it. What we'd like to do is, for example, a couple of weeks ago when we had this heavy rain, we were bringing supervisors in to take care of drainage problems and flooding problems, and these guys were coming in and not getting anything because it wasn't a state of an emergency. What we'd like to do is, if there's an emergency of this nature, rely on Bill and his people to determine who needs to come in and whether they get paid for it or not. That's all we're asking, is give us some flexibility with the managers and supervisors.
Motion to send it to council.
Motion by Mr. Barry,
I'll second it.
second by Ms. Fontenot, that we send it to the council. Any other discussion? Roy, this essentially would, especially dealing with exempt personnel, one of the things I think that the laws state that they have to be supervising somebody. So, I mean, if you call an exempt person to have to do some work, they need to be
right.
supervising before you
That's
can
right.
pay them overtime.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. All right, any other discussion? Okay, so move, we'll send that on to the council, full council for approval. Agenda item number 9, change in pay ranges for DPW managers and supervisors to ensure a minimum percentage pay above the highest paid worker under his supervision. Mr. Rue.
We have always had a problem because of past, situations that over the last 15 years, people have been there a long time working one piece of equipment or whatever, and moved up. And actually, we have a number of employees, hourly employees, that actually get more money than our supervisors. What we came up with is a plan to change this, to rectify this. We don't think it's right. And what we suggest is for supervisors, the range should be, at the low range, is 10% above the highest paid hourly person. And at the high range for supervisors, it'd be 15% above the highest paid person. So you got a 5% range there. For managers, it's the same thing. 10%, the beginning pay for a manager is 10% above the highest paid supervisor, and for the end range would be 15% above the highest paid supervisor. So you have that range of money.
Right.
And to give you some just a little bit of actual pay, what we're looking at right now, basically the highest paid hourly man is at roughly $34,000. So the supervisor's range would be between 37 and 39, or in that just about. And for your managers, theirs would be between 43 and 45. So it gives it a set pay as increases are given to your hourly employees. You're automatically given you're automatically giving your supervisors a raise above what that is. So they always stay at a certain percentage above your hourly people.
Okay.
And we think this is fair and just, and we recommend this.
Any discussion? Need some more clarification, Mr. Barry?
No.
Okay.
Motion to send it to council.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Barriger, second by Ms. Fontenot. Any other discussion? Okay.
Motion adjourned.
Let me tell Ms. Patterson to put that on the agenda. Put that on the council agenda, Ms. Patterson. Mr. Barry, motion to adjourn.
Thank
you.
y'all very much.
Okay, thank
And
you.
we are in the middle of our survey, so hopefully we'll get all the salary data to the council and to you people and to the personnel committee by July, as we said.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank y'all.
Okay, man.